J's Epic Quest. C&J's Epic C&J's Epic Quest. C&J's Epic Quest. C&J's Epic Quest. C&J's Epic Quest. C&J's Epic Quest.
Hey everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. I am Jay Rule, or Justin, and joining alongside me, my partner here,
Derek Coronis, or otherwise known as Derek, and we're joined by two very special guests today. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves.
Sure. My name is Latina, aka Lana Bashinsky.
I want a cool handle.
Yeah, you really screwed up when you made all your online handles your just normal name.
Normie McNormalson. That's me, Normie McNormalson, Jeff Kanata.
And we're from the DLC Book Club.
Yes, DLC Book Club, which is you can find on YouTube, on my YouTube page, which is youtube.com/Kanata Jeff. Kanata spelled with two N's and one T. And we, like you, are tackling the Malazan Book of the Fallen for the first time ever. So, yeah, it's awesome to meet,
Years.
Yes, co-questers, I guess.
Yes.
You guys are a little further ahead than we are. I see you guys, because you guys just finished the book recently, right? Memories of Ice, anyways.
Yes. Last week.
Dang. So how fast do y'all go?
We don't go that fast. I don't think. I mean, Lana is a much quicker reader than I. I am the anchor holding the team back because I am quite a slow reader. But we have some wonderful folks in our Discord and that have been sort of reading along with us that have given us, I think, a really cool roadmap. They did for Memories of Ice, and now they're doing that for House of Change, the fourth book. And so we tend to do like 2 to 3 chapters a week. That's basically our cadence. Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. But yeah, I mean, I think we're on pace for like 2 years to get through the whole 10 cycle.
Which your cadence, have you done the math on when you'll get through the whole all 10?
Well, we're not stopping at 10. We're gonna read all of Malazan, including the novels and the novellas in publication order. So once we're done with Memories of Ice, we're going to move on to the first novella, which is Blood Follows. So
nice.
Cool.
Yeah. But for the main 10, to go back to your actual question, I think it was about 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
My goodness. You're in it. You're in it to win it. It's like a graduate program. You're like in college.
We're probably putting in about as much time as college.
Yeah, around year 3, you have to really start refining your thesis because that's how like what comes out at the end. Gotta make sure you graduate.
Erickson's a harsh grader, I hear.
Yeah.
I don't know. We interviewed him not too long ago, and I don't know. I made him laugh. We made him laugh. So
He's
I'll take that as a
very
win.
kind human being. He is the best of us, I think, humans. I'm completely bowled over by his grace and generosity and genius. I think he's quite a person.
Yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it was mentioned when we released the episode because I haven't gone back and listened to them because I just think about all the things I wish I said during the episode and it gives me too much anxiety. But when we interviewed Steven Erickson, we had this like part of our conversation was so I feel like all of us were just like looking as much as we could, like story time, like, wow, what an amazing person. And we unfortunately, the recording broke and we lost it. So we're looking forward to our next conversation with him, whenever that may be.
That was Justin and I. We were just kind of dumbfounded talking to him, and all the time he gave us, he was so gracious.
Yeah.
Yeah, deer in the
And-
headlights for sure. Like real
We had
a seventh grade crush again, you know?
Yeah. I think that's how we feel too. I certainly have a crush on him. I think he's like the coolest dude. I tell my wife, like, I want to be Steven Erickson when I grow up.
All of us are Crocus for Steven Erickson.
Yeah.
You know,
Hard.
he is our noble lady in the bedroom, and we get to swoon.
He probably
That's awesome.
is just as into us as she was into Crocus.
Well, I guess we have some. We came up with some questions, and I'm sure we'll see where things lead here. But yeah, just as we read this sub book, I don't know necessarily that there's a ton to talk to pertaining to that sub book. It seems relatively straightforward. I don't think there was a ton of mystery or anything like that. So I think a lot of our questions are going to be just kind of your guys' experience. That type of thing. So
remind me, what's the last thing that happens in that sub book, so I know where to not talk past.
Yeah, Boshalane and Corbel Brooch get attacked by the raptor sword arm. And yes,
that feels
So
like
good.
an eternity ago. But what a great
good.
scene. So much has happened since then. I would love to know, like, what are your impressions? Like you said, it was pretty straightforward, but especially coming out of book 2 through book 3, I feel like there's a very different flavor to it. Once again, I would love to know, like, just how what's the vibe so far?
You want to go first, Justin?
Sure. I think that there's, it was definitely nice to be reacquainted with Whiskey Jack and Gano's, Dujek, Brood, Rake, all of these guys that we spent about 9 months getting to know while we recorded Gardens of the Moon. And that familiarity was it was great to come back to. But at the same time, I loved how Erickson reminded you of things that happened in Gardens of the Moon without actually like reminding you. I kind of like to think of it as like, hey, I've got this picture here, but I'm not going to describe this picture. I'm just going to paint other pictures that essentially kind of make you think of that picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, I think. Yeah. It is wild to, have the 2 first novels in a big series have almost 0 shared characters. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, but I do think that shout out to sort of the first book, the sort of slower ramp I felt like this book felt very much more like Gardens of the Moon, where I felt like book 2 was a lot more. There seemed to be a lot more little actions that happened and little moments that had like really exciting things. And that first book, especially, I felt much more like I did with Gardens of the Moon, where I'm like, there's so much information here and not all of it is immediately relevant, but I'm still trying to stick it in my brain to save it for later. Cause I know everything means something.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And, the way Memories of Ice starts too, it's like, you've just been through this incredibly harrowing thing with Dead House Gates. You want to kind of reconnect with all the people in Jenna Bacca's book. And then it's like, hey, by the way, hundreds of thousands of years ago, some really important stuff happened. And you're like, really? Really? We need to know this? All right, let's do it. I love the audacity of it all.
I really enjoyed that prologue for Memories of Ice. I mean,
so good.
And I've talked, as Justin and I have talked, and I've talked to other people. I mean, that prologue in Dead House Gates compared to the prologue in Gardens of the Moon was like going from 1 to 10, I felt like. Mm-hmm. And then the prologue from Memories of Ice to Dead House Gates was like a 20 to Dead House Gates 10, just ramped up phenomenally. Yeah, then the rest of it, honestly, this subbook I've struggled with quite a bit. There's a lot of interesting things, but just as you mentioned, coming down from that wild ride of Dead House Gates, I had a hard time with the slower pace of it. And I know it's going to build, and I know it's going to pop off, and some wild things are going to happen, I'm sure. I don't even know. I mean, we get maybe a little bit of a taste with the raptors, as Justin and I call them, appearing. But yeah, it's I'm looking forward to continuing on and just unraveling more of this book.
Purely for my entertainment, do you have any predictions? I know you're like, it feels like It's just like an info dump. But even just based on where you are, is there anything that you're like, ooh, I'd be interested in seeing that happen, or I'm excited to possibly see that happen? And then we will keep a completely straight face and
Okay,
give
all
nothing
right,
away.
cool.
For the book or the series as a whole?
The book.
How about just this book? Yeah.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
this
any-
book. I don't know how much you like research. And so if you like know things about the series as a whole, I don't want to hear it. So let's stick to this
We
book.
don't want to know anything past
No.
this book, but we are curious what you think of this book because we have finished it.
We try to avoid all spoilers. So like we
Yeah,
don't
so
look
do I.
anything up. I don't look at like character pictures. So like I do a lot of artsy stuff and getting inspiration. I'm like, no, I'm not even letting myself do that.
Mhm.
Won't look at anything Reddit. I'm not. Nope.
Yeah.
Even if it's at the sacrifice of promoting the pod, I'm not going to do it unless I'm like definitely sure that this post contains no spoilers.
Mhm.
Derek and I
I think I've got the big one. I'm making a pretty bold prediction in this book.
yes,
And I think Silver Fox is going to die.
they just
We will say nothing.
Interesting.
We will say nothing.
Interesting.
Derek, you want to tell them about your theory about Gnos and Felicin and Tavor?
Yeah, I guess I kind of have this overarching theory for the series, and it's just kind of stuff I picked up on, in Gardens of the Moon and Deadhouse Gates. But I think that Tavor will kill Felicin, and Gnos will basically go ballistic and lose his mind, and he's going to kill Tavor to avenge the family.
Because why though? What made you think this?
I don't even remember because it's been so long.
Okay, so I think it was like the fourth or fifth chapter in Gardens of the Moon when he is killed by Sari, right? And he's at like the gates of hell, and there's like this gateway that's like thriving with bodies. They're moving and wiggling around and stuff. And I can't remember who said it, but someone was just like, hey, we're going to give you your life in exchange for someone you love.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember who said that either, but yeah, there was, an exchange of lives. So I was like, just thinking about it, and then after what we saw happen to Felicin, I don't know. It seems to be tragic, and I don't know. I don't know if it's going to come true. Part of it's going to come true, but I could see, so far with what we've read, I could see that playing out to some degree. Whether it does or doesn't, I don't know. That's kind of it.
Interesting.
It is
Wow,
interesting.
just
I feel like there's one thing we've learned about Erickson is that he loves to subvert expectations.
Yes.
So I'm constantly being surprised by what I think is being set up, and then that swerves, and that's not the setup. It's remarkable how he continues to do that.
So
In probably all the best ways, I assume.
Yeah, I think so.
picking off of what you just said, Jeff. So were you expecting Apslar to become Shaik Reborn?
I think clearly that's what's being set up, right? Is that you think that's where it's headed. That's where it's headed. And I remember that I think we stopped and recorded an episode right before the reveal. Like, I think there's a chapter where they come out of, an old man and a young woman come out of a warren or something like that. And
Just out of the storm, I think.
Yeah, you're right. It's just out of the storm. And it's like an old man and a young woman. And I think I was like, it didn't say Absalar.
Mhm.
And it might, it didn't say. So I think in that moment, I was like, it really could be, Felicin, but I was definitely surprised it went that way. And Felicin is one of my favorite characters. I think the way he writes her with such insight and tenderness, almost like she's a very unlikable person in a lot of ways, but like you understand exactly what's going on in her head all the time. And it's, I don't know. I think Lana had a much bigger problem with Felicin than I do. I love her.
I think it reveals my toxic trait is that I'm like, oh, come on, you'll be fine. Rub some dirt in it, girl.
Stop complaining.
What has your life been so bad with the blood flies biting your whole body, I guess. I loved that chapter, and I love the way we read, and I feel like you must feel the same way because you read chapter by chapter, even doing a couple chapters at a time. We stop at these moments that are like cliffhangers. And if we just read the next page, literally like half of our episodes, we would know the answer. But
Yeah.
having those moments where it feels like episodic, it's very exciting way to read the book.
Yeah, and also test your patience at the same time.
Yeah, true.
I test Lana's patience because she could have blown through the whole book in a weekend, and I'm like, I barely finished in time for the episode.
Did you guys only read the chapters once or twice, or?
Oh yeah, no, we're not reading it multiple times before we record. I think we can speak for both of us when I say that, right, Lana?
You're correct. I would say 90% of the episodes, I'm like, oh, I forgot to do the reading, and I wake up at 5 that day that we record, read, and then like 2 minutes before the podcast starts, I log on. I'm like, I did it. So not a lot of bandwidth.
I mean, as much as the show is a priority for us, and wanting to do right by these books, and do service to the work. Ultimately, we want to have a good time, right? It doesn't want to feel like homework. It doesn't want to feel like a chore. This is about we call our show the book club, right? This is about having fun and celebrating the joy of reading. And we happen to have found books that we're both really digging. So, I think for us, I'm willing to give up some of our, being correct about things, getting things right. We'll make mistakes and recap things, and we'll have folks in our comments like, "Oh, that's not exactly how it went down." I'm fine with that if it means we're still having fun and not feeling like this is a big chore or responsibility.
Yeah. The number of times we have an episode where I feel like we'll say some sentence out loud, and I'll be like, "Oh, I think I put something together," and I'll be like pulling at this thread. And I just forgot 60% of the things that else helped in the chapter. And I'm just going down a thread that if none of these other things happened, that might be true. And people in the comments let us know it. And I love it. It feels like we have a book club, a casual fun time.
Yeah.
I always feel like I love to be wrong, because those are the most entertaining moments in our podcasts. And especially when, Derek and I will argue over something that's not right. So,
yeah.
Like
we had a lot of that in Dead House Gates. We did not see very eye to eye on that book at all.
Oh, really?
Of having a bet, a couple of bets while we were reading that book. So I bet Derek that during Dead House Gates, we made a bet. So I thought the Book of Dredjana was fake. I just thought that it was too easy. Like, Mebra's just like, here you go, here's a book. Go bring it to Shaik Goddess. Okay. It just felt very obvious, and I don't know. It just felt setty-uppy.
MacGuffin.
And I actually didn't think that, I thought that Shaik was going to stay dead. I ended up being wrong because there was not enough evidence to swing my favor as far as the book goes. And Shaik Reborn, while not technically the same Shaik, I deferred. So I ended up with a couple of pie days over the summer. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying about Erickson, like subverting expectations. It's hard to, he always seems to zag when you think he's going to zig,
Mm-hmm.
I would have a hard time making solid bets on. I was pretty shocked at that moment where it's like, you bring the book, you get the book. Okay, she opens the page. I'm about to slash. She just murdered immediately. Just incredible.
Yeah, that was a good scene. That was a really good scene. But yeah, I mean, we've answered some of our questions and just our dialogue here. But to get to the formalities, so to speak, how did you discover Malazan?
I have a very short answer for that, and that is Jeff. Jeff?
Well, I don't remember exactly how I do. Lana knows this about me. I am such a slow reader that the process of deciding what to read next is laborious, painstaking. I research things without looking into the actual plot or story of something. I have Goodreads. I have Amazon reviews. I have, recommended New York Times bestseller. I cross-reference. It's like a wall with red string trying to decide what book I'm going to read next. Lana will find a book at the park that someone left behind and read it in 15 minutes and be like, oh, I might as well read this. It was lying here in the park. And I, believe me, admire that. I'm so jealous of it. I wish I could do that, but no, I'm a slow reader, so it feels like an investment. So I have these very meticulously curated Goodreads lists of to read, and Gardens of the Moon was put on my Goodreads to read list 10 years ago.
Wow.
Because I'd heard amazing things about it. But it had always kind of just sat there and I never got around to it. And I was reading up about the best fantasy series of all time. And I started looking at YouTube channels and AP Canavan's channel and some of the other booktubers. And a lot of people placed the Malazan Book of the Fallen as their, top or near the top all-time fantasy series. And I was like, man, 10 novels, they're all big. It has this reputation of being incredibly dense and hard to get into. And a lot of people, there's all kinds of YouTube videos of people like, I can't get into this. I can't get it. Well, what everything that's wrong with, Malazan, whatever. And I figured like the only way I'm actually going to do this and stick with it is if, we build some content around it. And I knew that, and Lana and I had a lot of discussions about fantasy books and had shared love of reading. And so I was like, hey, would you want to read these books? Because I figure like the only way I'll stick to it and force myself to get through that. Because I really thought it was going to be a slog. And I think both of us found that Gardens of the Moon was really fun to read. And I think I probably, if I just picked it up on my own, I probably would have finished it. But having the structure of the YouTube channel and the book club and Lana, really made sure that, I was going to keep reading these books. And I think that's what I personally needed to do it.
I think that maybe kind of leads into another one of our questions then. So I guess, and maybe you've explained it in some of your videos, but how do you guys know each other? And, how did the channel come to be and we decided to do this? Some of it you kind of answered here already, but.
I think we came to know each other, well, first of all, through Twitter. So Jeff has a podcast called DLC. Well, Jeff has many podcasts, but one of them is called DLC, your downloadable commentary for the week about video games, with another friend of now ours, but his, Christian Spicer. And there was at one point, Jeff had put out a call for we're looking for people who want to talk about video games. Give us your recommendations. And a good buddy of mine, Tim, aka the Trixler Fraser, recommended me in Twitter. And so Jeff invited me on the DLC podcast back in 2021.
Feels way longer ago than that. That's crazy.
It's actually almost our friendiversary. It's November 2021.
Oh.
Maybe it was 2020. No, sorry. It was 2019.
There you go. That seems
that's
better.
The one. Not
that's too recent.
Yeah, no, 2019.
Time is a flat circle. I don't know. It was in the before times. It was before COVID.
Right before it. Because then when I discovered the podcast, I basically became a fan. So I went on it and I was like, well, what is it? I'll research it. I'll listen to it. And then I was like, this is a great show. And then Jeff and Christian would invite me back on every once in a while. And that's basically it. I just come on the show sometimes. And now we have the Wednesday show that I'm on every week with these guys. But Jeff and I have actually never met in person. It's a lot. I know we talk about it all the time.
And we keep moving farther away from each other.
Yes.
At one point we could have met easily and we were in the same city. But
at one point we were certainly in the same rooms together on many occasions.
Yes, that's true.
Wow, that's wild.
But never met.
Well, Lana used to work for Blizzard, and I am a big Blizzard fanboy, and I she works for Riot now. Yeah. But I was a huge Blizzard fan, and particularly a huge fan of a game called Heroes of the Storm, which is sort of now defunct, but was a MOBA that Blizzard did, and Lana worked on that, and that's because I was super into that game. That's how I met Tim Trixler Fraser, because he was a streamer of that game, and I was kind of a fan of what he was doing, and so I invited him on my show, and then he led me to Lana, and so there were times when I was covering that game, and she was working on that game, that we were absolutely 100% in the same place at the same time, and we just didn't know each other yet.
Yeah.
So, Lana, what do you do, if I may ask?
When I worked at Blizzard, I was an animator, but now at Riot, I work in research and development as an associate art director.
Oh man, that's what I went to school for, was animation. So
What? Really?
Yeah.
Where did you go to school?
a defunct for-profit college.
Was it the Art Institute?
Yeah, it
Hell
was.
yeah, baby. I mean, not to derail this thing. I could talk about that for a long time. I almost went to the Art Institute.
You're lucky you didn't, because it's fucking degrees mean
Yeah.
absolutely nothing. I've learned more from YouTube than I did that whole college experience.
Hell yeah. Oh, we love it. That's corporate America, baby. We live in it. Woo! I would love to talk to you about that later. Very cool.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know where you left off, Derek. We're not really answering. We're asking these questions.
We're not going in order or any sort of order, I guess. Just
How did you guys
As things
decide
flow.
to do these novels? Because
Yeah.
this
I'm
is
gonna-
not a small thing to take on either, from your
Gonna-
perspective.
Follow Lana's, I guess, how she started and be like, Derek, go for it.
so I think it's a fun story. But I had a guy living with me as a roommate for a while, and one day I'm at work and I get a phone call from somebody doing like a background check. Like I was a landlord. Like
On you?
I wasn't.
Oh,
No, for the guy that was living with me, because they wanted to get whatever info, I guess.
oh.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, he's moving out. So I went home and changed the locks, and I texted him like, hey, if you're moving out, it's cool. I changed the locks. I just don't want to get, raked over the coals and out, money, which he could have done, because I mean, it was just, a cash deal, basically. There was no agreement or anything. And he's like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. And so he moved out and he left a bunch of stuff, and he left a bunch of books, and 10 of these books were Malazan Book of the Fallen, which sat on my bookshelf for a number of years. Justin finished, or was getting close to finishing, The Wheel of Time when the first season started to air. And I had him come down to my house. We would watch the first 3 episodes together. And I'm like, hey, I've got these books. We should read them together. I don't know anything about them. And he's like, cool. And so then, I mean, that was kind of it. I'm like, let's just do a podcast. I had no idea what kind of work it took.
Wow.
That's
Like,
amazing.
let's just do it.
That's
So,
my vibe.
That's just finding a book under the tree at the park plan. That's
It
amazing.
kind of was. And I'm really thankful I have Justin, because he does all the editing for our podcast and stuff. Like, I don't think I would have the patience to do that type of work. And either he's lying to my face or he really loves it, because he says he loves it. And he does a great job. He does a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I'm eternally grateful that he does.
I guess you're just lucky your old roommate didn't leave like the 50 Shades of Grey novels behind, because then you would have been doing a completely different kind of podcast.
Just a completely different audience. So after you started, like, was it that you started this podcast? And then, I mean, I was so surprised at how quickly sort of the Malazan community like found us. So when you started doing these, was it that you did no research on it, or like after did you check out a review to say, oh, this seems like a really popular series actually, or you just started
Nothing at all.
podcasting and then
No.
people were like, we're so excited for you to do this.
The only thing that I found, I looked for other Malazan podcasts, and the only one that I could find was 10 Very Big Books. And I didn't listen to any of their stuff because I didn't want any spoilers, but I'm like, there only appears to be one other podcast out there. So like, let's do it. And I don't even remember how far into it they were at the time. But yeah, I think for us, it's been, I guess I don't know that we ever had like a big uptick or a big shoot. It was always kind of steady growth. And I guess now maybe.
That's something I didn't think about, is like, you're through book 1 of Memories of Ice. But because you're going a chapter at a time, you started much like long ago.
Almost in what, March? It'll be 2 years.
March
End of February, beginning of March.
Yeah,
Yep.
wow. Season pros.
Yeah.
We've done other things sprinkled in there as well, but I mean, this is kind of our bigger focus as a whole.
It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I just like any opportunities to be creative, Derek. I'm not lying to your face when I say I like doing it. So
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'd feel really bad if you were.
I mean, you went to art school, glutton for punishment, baby. That's just how it is. We go there and like, I live for this.
I mean, right. I spent my whole college career just painstakingly moving keyframes. to make sure that like the it was fluid and it didn't suck. Yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
My
So
resume. I can make it fluid and it doesn't suck.
Unless you wanted to, and then I could do that too.
And then anything you want. Anything you want.
Depends on
Just
what kind of
don't-
animation I'm making. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Bowling alley animations. Let me tell you, I'll make them garbage. Sorry.
Yeah. New meaning to gutter ball, right?
Yeah.
I guess piggybacking off of that a little bit. So like you guys have a lot of people watching your stuff. How do we do that?
Boy. The answer that I always give to this is the only way I know how to do it is you build a time machine and you go back to 2007 and you start making content on the internet, and then people know who you are because there's only like 16 people making content on the internet, and then that's the only way that's the way I did it. Is that I've been making podcasts before anyone knew what the hell that was. I'm very fortunate that I started making a show before there was a way to distribute shows really easily. We kind of caught on early on. I did a show called The Totally Rad Show in 2006, 2007. And we did that show for 7 years. And, we won a Webby, and we got very fortunate. People knew the show and sort of started following me. And then I went on and did a bunch of shows after that, a show called Weekend Confirmed, which got pretty popular. And the only reason anybody here's the real truth of the matter is that we're doing the show on my YouTube channel, not because only because I already had 11,000 subscribers to my YouTube channel, which isn't a lot, isn't in this grand scheme of things, but it was more than zero. So
I have a couple hundred, sir.
Yeah, sorry.
How dare you?
I don't mean more than zero for yours, more than zero of starting a new channel.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mean that. I'm not casting aspersions on you.
Damn.
I'm just saying we weren't starting from zero. I had a YouTube channel I just wasn't using that I had used for a bunch of things over the years. And it had a bunch of subscribers sitting on it. And every now and again, you'll see people in the comments being like, hey, this is strange. Jeff, wow, I didn't realize you were still making content.
Those comments make me laugh so hard.
Yeah.
Every time one pops up, I'm like, this person gotta read the room.
Anyway, we don't have 500,000, 1 million, 2 million subscribers. We're not busting the doors down, but I'm very fortunate that we have a built-in audience, and a lot of the folks that honestly, this was less about like, let's build an awesome book thing and more about, hey, we have this audience of people. Yeah, we have this audience of people that talk about video games. Maybe we can persuade some of them to read a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as somebody who, I didn't have social media. I wasn't making YouTube content in 2007. I have
He was
thought
barely alive in 2000. He was so young.
I was a 10-year-old. I will say it's something I thought a lot about, of like trying to get connected, not trying to like build my audience, but as an animator and an artist in like a competitive space, I thought a lot about how to like make the connections that I needed to, so that when I would be like at the forefront of people's minds, if jobs came up, I wanted to be available and be present. And I think the things that always helped me sort of build up from nothing, around 2010, it was like consistency and like building and looking for communities, and not just like trying from nothing to get somewhere. If I'm supporting other people, they're more inclined to support me, and like being present and being consistent, having some kind of schedule that I can keep that lets other people know the best ways to connect with me. I think that was one of the things that helped me, build into some kind of presence online.
Very cool. So that, I guess, one of my thoughts, and I guess that probably kind of is answered, but you guys just stuck to the YouTube because Jeff, you had the audience, versus just starting like an audio only podcast type thing from zero then.
I think
Yeah, I mean,
that's
I do. Sorry, go ahead, Lana.
I was going to say, I think
Or
that
at least for the Malazan side of things anyways. Sorry.
I think that was like a big part of it. But I also know that when Jeff and I started doing this, Jeff's pitch to me was not like, hey, let's give ourselves another project to do. It was really through that desire of just wanting to read, and the nature of Jeff's work is that it's hard to justify taking the time to like sit down and just read something when there's not like an output there. So it seemed like an easy win, something we both wanted to do. We had the space to kind of put it up and like start interacting with the community, which is something both of us obviously enjoy. I think that's why we stuck with YouTube, is because we didn't go into this like with a plan. Even so, even before we started Memories of Ice, I like designed us a logo and I was like ready to go. And pretty quickly this started like, ooh, the scope creep. But then my work was like, you don't have time for that. And so the YouTube is sort of the main avenue, just for the sake of keeping it casual and not like a big project for us to do.
Well said.
Very
And I also came to Lana at one point very early on and was like, I secretly want to be a booktuber.
Yes.
I want to be a booktuber because I watch a lot of booktubers, and I was like, I could be a booktuber. I want to be a booktuber, but I can't read fast enough to be a booktuber, because I don't know if you guys watch BookTube, but 90% of BookTube is like, here's the 14 books I read this month. And it's like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I
And
know,
neither
it's
of us
insane.
have libraries of bookshelves in the background. We didn't have enough books visible on camera to really
That's the
be
number one requirement to be a
true
booktuber.
booktuber.
Didn't you just green screen something in?
I
could.
That's a good point.
But you know what? That sounds like a project.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
You see some of those people read like 300 books a year, and you're like,
I
You're
envy
reading
that.
like a
I
book
wish I
a
could
day?
be that. Yeah, it's amazing. It's beautiful. I wish I could do that. It's
But
not-
how many
I-
video
I-
games do they play?
Fair.
Probably not very many.
How many children do they have? That's a bigger question. I have 2 kids. That's my biggest stumbling block, is I have 2 kids.
Yeah, and that whole work thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, sustainability. I guess up to Memories of Ice, the first sub book. What would you say your favorite characters in the series are so far? I know that you mentioned Felice and Jeff, but maybe a second or a third.
Oh man, I don't know if you guys have gotten to this. I think you have. I love Buke in Memories of Ice. Buke's my boy. I think we both love Bowden from Deadhouse Gates.
Kalam is up there.
Yeah, go ahead, Lana.
Love Kalam. Just a spicy, beefy rogue. Love that boy. And Crocus and Krupp. Krupp.
Yeah, we love Krupp.
Number one. Love Krupp. Krupp. Number
Krupp
one.
is
Krupp
like
stand.
all-time literary creation.
Yes.
Just an amazing thing. Just an amazing character.
Is there a character in the book that could be portrayed by a goblin of some variety? Love them. Love them. Krupp.
Dude, I don't know. I just saw a movie called The Holdovers the other night, and I think Paul Giamatti was born to play Krupp. Paul Giamatti as Krupp, ladies and gentlemen.
I can see it.
Believe it.
I always imagine the clown from Spawn, but without the clown makeup.
Yeah, it's good.
It was funny because when we first were reading Gardens of the Moon, I thought Krupp was German, so I was saying Krupa.
Oh yeah, I can't remember what we first.
I think it was Croupy.
Croupy, yeah. Croupy.
Sounded so cute.
That's
And he's such a little
better.
cutie.
Cutie.
Yeah. Do you have faves?
I love Poost. I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah,
but
we love him too. Yes,
he's just diabolically crazy. Like he's just like logically insane. They don't make any sense.
so great.
Yeah.
Speaking your subtext out loud, it's hilarious every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Although I have many theories that somehow Poost is Quick Ben, but I'm sure that'll get shot down eventually. But that's one of my way left theories, is that Quick Ben had something to do with not necessarily the whirlwind in itself, but Derek doesn't. I can't convince Derek, but I do think that Quick Ben has somehow made his way to 7 cities while he's on Genovacus.
I don't think he had time.
He's a mage that can control.
His name literally is Quick. Ben.
Right.
This is true, but I'm not buying it. Justin gives me this vibe that I think he must think this is like a Mission Impossible movie where everybody's ripping masks off and every one of them is Quick Ben. And I'm just like, and he's been, but he has, to Justin's credit, he's been right on a lot. Like
Riga.
He knew that Riga, Servant, you knew that was Absalar's father way early. I can't even remember, like all this stuff. I'm like, maybe, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not buying it. And then he turns out to be right. So I should probably just trust him more. But
maybe just a little. Just a little.
You just got to start, counter offering some predictions that are intentionally way out of left field to just make him really think. Like, could that be true? Is this person also Quick Ben?
Well, that's like Justin. He's like, everybody's Quick Ben.
That's kind of the running joke.
Yeah.
And I won't take a pie on it. That's another thing that we talk about a lot.
We did make a bet.
What we did?
Yeah. So
remind me, what did we bet on again?
I don't know. It'll be on the episode that's coming out. So we was it chapter 5?
Chapter 5.
Chapter 5 we recorded for 6.5 hours.
No way. Whoa.
Chapter.
Holy mackerel. You guys really do a deep dive. My
Edit
goodness.
it down. It's like, I'm going to imagine, editing out the potty breaks and the family intrusions, probably about maybe 5:15, 5:30. So
wow. That's
holy
intense.
Moly. And
it was over 2 days, but
do you literally pie each other in the face?
we did.
It's on our
That's
TikTok.
awesome.
That's so fun.
This
I love
is
that.
great. Maybe we need to.
We need one IRL stream,
yeah.
Jeff Kanata.
We need to step up our game, I guess. That's impressive.
Oh, I think we made a bet on me saying Silver Fox is going to die. I think I was willing to take a pie on that I feel pretty confident. Just, I guess I don't know that it'll happen in Memories of Ice, but
knowing Erickson, Silver Fox will die, but Tattersail will be at the fore, like they're all doing in this subbook. Like Tattersail has to come to the fore, Cambry Nightchill,
Oh, so here's the so when you say you make a prediction, that prediction can be accomplished at any time during the rest of the series, or it's not like within the confines of the novel.
I don't know. I feel like we're
Good question.
Pretty loose on it.
But if you're taking a pie to the face, I feel like there's got to be give me the mechanics.
So I would imagine that if I am right about the Book of Dredjana, like whenever we come across that again, then Derek would have to recant the pie and I would pie him in the face.
I like the idea.
He has to buy you a pie to eat. Sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
So honestly, when I first heard the pie thing, that's what I assumed it was. It was like, oh, that's a great bet because I would love to win a free pie, but hitting it in the face is even better. But here's my suggestion to you guys: is you make the bet and you purchase the pie when you make the bet.
Oh no, I don't like this at all.
And if you win the bet 4 years later,
the other person has to eat the pie, or you get
you get a pie in the face that's 4 years old.
Some of it gets in your mouth. Trust me, I know.
You put a date on the pie. November 2023. And it's like 2028 right now.
A fine vintage.
Yeah.
I hope there's a lot of preservatives in that fruit pie.
That's a collector's pie.
Yeah, they're McDonald's pies. They'll taste the same, actually.
Yeah.
That would. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny stuff. Well, Derek, you want to take this next question?
Sure. So, I guess a precursor to this question: have you guys started House of Chains yet, or no?
I have. We haven't started podcasting about or doing a show about it yet, but I've started reading because I'm, as I've mentioned numerous times now, exceedingly slow reader. So I have started.
I don't even know how many chapters we're doing.
We're doing 3. I think we're doing the prologue and chapter 1 and 2.
Okay, cool.
So I have started.
Gotcha. Okay. So and
I will tell you, it starts like where are we? Where are we now? What
I'm
do we need to
excited.
do? What do we need to know? Who are these people?
Of course, in
Way
true
out there
Erickson
again.
style.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So how would so out of these first three books, and I wonder if you guys will have different answers from each other, but how would you rank the first three books as far as, you know, your favorite to least favorite?
Lana, go ahead.
2, 3, 1.
Yeah, well, we're aligned on that. I think both of us have two just edging out, three,
Yes.
Dead House Gates,
They're
just
close.
edging out Memories of Ice, and then Gardens of the Moon a little lower. That's my ranking at least.
Yes, mine
You're
as
like-
well.
Dead House Gates is your favorite?
Yes.
Yeah. Dead House Gates, I think, is tremendous. Like I said, I love the Felicin storyline. It's incredible. Like the ups and downs, her like torment throughout the whole first two-thirds of the book. And then where it goes with her is completely surprising to me. I love all that. I love Duiker and like who he, the fact that we're like witnessing this war through the eyes of a historian. And then the Coltane ending, I literally was bawling my eyes out reading it.
Mhm.
That book is, I think, is a triumph. And all the stuff with who's in what's it's the two friends.
Icarium?
Yes, thank you. That storyline is awesome with that sort of anguish of a friend who can't be truthful to his friend, and all. I don't know. There's very little of that book that I think is extraneous or superfluous, and Memories of Ice I think is tremendous as well. I just think that it's a little bit. I mean, you guys don't know this yet, but I think that I don't even say, but it's I would say it's still very good.
It's like for me, it is that it's a much slower build, whereas I feel like the consistency of action and the consistency of not just interesting lore, but interesting direct moments kept me so in the second book. Like I really felt like every week I was like, oh my gosh, this amazingly cool thing happened. And for a big chunk of the first part of Memories of Ice, I think it still really started to turn for me around chapter 10. So, you're close to like the turning point, but it's a lot more of that lore dump. And then it's sort of like a funnel into like, oh my God, of the book. And so both have incredibly powerful moments. I definitely cried a lot more in Memories of Ice, but the number 2 takes the cake for me. That chain o' doggies, baby.
So good. So good.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've heard from multiple people that book just stays with you for a long time. And I resonate with that. It does. I mean, like the Roman Empire, I think about that book a lot more than that. So, I mean, almost daily, I'm just thinking like, and it's weird to me. It's just a book, a fantasy book. And I'm like, man, like what an awful thing to go through, but I'm still thinking about it. And yeah, Coltane, like Pormqual pissed me off like no other character has in a book before. Justin can attest to it. I was so mad.
Even just
furious.
His name.
Just furious.
Yeah.
More
his
like
name. Saying just his name. Ugh, Pormqual.
Yeah. You could totally turn his name into a verb. Like
like
You really Pormqualled it.
Yeah, don't Pormqual like that. Come on.
Yeah.
I like it.
form failed. All right. Well, awesome. Thank you guys for that. I don't know about Derek, but I would agree. I think it would go 2, 3, 1 so far.
I mean, for me right now, again, just solely through the first sub book, I would rate them 2, 1, 3. I would right now I would put Memories Ice just because I know it's building to something, but I'm just waiting for that payoff, and I know it's going to come.
But I feel like it's kind of a necessity to have this build up because I feel like it would be really jarring to go off into the whole 7 cities. You're following Felazin and Haboric and Mappo and Icarium and Kalam and their stories just to end up in like a siege of Capustan. So I think that it's necessary. And while I can appreciate that it's like just setting it up, setting the scene, so to speak, I do really enjoy those intricate moments, like with Silver Fox and Gano's and everything that's going on, and like the master of the deck, that kind of stuff. So that I'm super curious about. That's like the formula that I'm used to, and I'm excited to see what those potentially reveal.
I will say what I'm curious about, or what I'm waiting to find out more in going forward. Lady Envy and the Segula.
Yeah,
Those
they're
are
awesome. They're awesome. So much fun. I love her.
The
And I
Segula.
love
I
them.
love the Segula.
Mhm.
So cool. More like the Sakula. Am I right?
Yes.
Dad jokes for the win. Woo.
That was a great one.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
What is something that either of you find the most fascinating about how Erickson writes?
Lana, go ahead.
Are you saying go ahead because you know exactly what I'm going to say because I say it all the time?
Possibly, but I still like to hear it.
Okay. The thing that I find most fascinating about the way Erickson writes, well, there's a couple. One, his characters feel incredibly balanced. There's, I think, especially in fantasy genres, I find that people often they're like really strong at like writing one kind of character, and then all the other characters are like tropes or like sort of they land in a zone that doesn't quite stick. It doesn't quite resonate with me often enough. I find that the women characters in fantasy novels are not super well written. Brandon Sanderson. But with Steve Erickson, it's like the way that he developed the idea of magic and, you know, class in this world and like how does magic affect things, you know, has basically resulted in like inequality. You have badass women, you got badass men, you got badass people just around in general. And it feels very balanced. And there has not been a character, maybe aside from like the Trigal Trade Guild sort of busting down the door, that I was like, what in the... And even then I liked them. It just felt a little too convenient. But the other thing that I've talked about a bunch on our podcast and recently, again, we talked with a Critical Dragon, is I really feel trusted as a reader. The fact that this book is something that you're not expected to know what everything is right away. You're expected to, but you're trusted that when it pays off, that you will feel like it pays off and get why it pays off. And I really appreciate that in Steve Erickson as a writer.
I would agree. And I feel like the way that Justin and I are doing this, just reading one chapter, I guess I don't know if you guys have felt terribly lost at any point, like waiting for more information or waiting for that payoff. But even if we've been waiting, I know it's coming, and I'm not like anxious. I'm not in a hurry to keep going. We've got our pace, and I know, like you said, it's just that trust feeling. It's a good feeling to know that that's there.
What about you, Jeff Kanata?
Oh, well, you know, I love his use of language. I am just blown away by the quality of his prose, which I find to be poetic and beautiful. And his insight, that was the revelation that I was not expecting, was that so many lines are just this incredibly insightful summation of the human condition or some aspect of the human condition, some thing that, oh my God, he found a way to describe so beautifully, so perfectly, so eloquently. I am constantly taken aback by just a sentence here or a paragraph there that seems to convey some truth that I believe in, you know, and the fact that there's so much compassion at the heart of these novels, so much beauty, so much honor, so much duty and goodness, you know, in these worlds that are very dark and full of horrors untold. The fact that he constantly finds such beauty in it, that is my favorite aspect of his writing, is just how lyrical it is, how gorgeous the prose is, and how he manages to find these beautiful ways to express things that feel true, even though this is a fantastical made up world.
Kind of bouncing off of that, did you get the sense that the Maybe is kind of representation of like parenthood? How?
Oh, yes. I mean, there's a number of times on our podcast I've had to hold back tears talking about there's a sequence. I don't know if you guys have gotten to it yet, but there's a sequence from the Maybe's perspective that I read the entire thing. I read out loud to my wife because I was like, you have to hear that. You have to hear how beautifully he describes the selflessness that's required to be a parent. And how, it destroys her and she sort of gives it freely. It's just absolutely, absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
Yes, it definitely is. But what you were just saying about what you enjoyed about Erickson's writing just reminded me of the Maybe and just how in-depth Mr. Erickson can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make us feel
insightful. And so like able to take these very complicated things and distill them into something poetic. It's amazing.
That's something I'm really looking forward to as we, go through the rest of this series. As it is, I'm not very much for like reading books and being like, which one is me? But like having characters that really resonate with the types of choices that I would make or things that mean something to me. I love everybody likes seeing that reflection. Representation matters in all media, period. And I feel like I'm excited to look back at the series as a whole because I feel like I will see something probably many times, something specifically that calls to me in the heart of what I am and what I love. And I can't wait to discuss with our community about that too, because I feel like everybody's going to have that piece because of what I hear is a plethora of characters that continues on until the end of the series. And I'm excited to see sort of what other nuances, what other sort of parts of humanity that he explores through the rest of these books.
Do you imagine either one of you rereading the series once you're done?
I don't know. Maybe I could go ahead, Lana.
I could see, I don't know if I would like reread it. I would probably re-skim it. Like little things that like already there's little pieces. I mean, things that got called out to us. Like in the last book, he's the last book, right? With Dancer and Kellenved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like everybody, as soon as we read that, and people being like, have you ever read the first paragraph of the book before? Because it says all of this really plainly. And it's like, oh, that's really cool. And I feel like I would go back and at the very least reread all of the chapter starters across the board. Because I feel like it'll be, it'll probably bring up memories from all these places that they're going to appear or things that they're referencing, and having the full picture and just reading those excerpts that are, poetry or quotes or things pulled from the perspective of the person who wrote it in the world, I bet will be another interesting story in and of itself.
I didn't even think of that. No, that's great.
Yeah, I'm, as I said, very slow reader. So there's always like, 400 things that I haven't gotten to yet. So I have a hard time revisiting things that I already experienced because there's always new stuff I want to spend my time on. But I think these books are always going to have a very special place in my heart. I mean, we're only 3 novels into 10 plus, plus however many others, but at least 10. And I already can tell that these will have a very special place in my heart. And I like close to my identity. I don't know if I'm going to use that word, but just my, I think because of the experience that I'm having with Lana reading them and the community that we're sort of building around it, and the fact that we've spoken to Mr. Erickson himself, and like just that it's a very special experience, not to mention the fact that the books themselves are impactful and beautiful and resonate. So, it's entirely possible that I'll want to revisit them because they're these special things. But I tend not to go back and reread things just because I have so many, like I said, this was in my 2 reads for a decade. And I have things sitting there that I've been wanting to get to for so long.
Fair enough. I'm such a detail-oriented person that like I would want to go back and just like read it in a more consistent, not waiting a week to read a chapter, being able to devour a book in my normal time, a week and a half to 2 weeks, and then move right into the next one. Because I think that, doing it chapter by chapter, week by week, sometimes, every other week, it does slow down the pace. And so things do feel long at the same time. So it would be nice to be able to read it in the cadence that it was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Anything else there, Justin?
no, not at all.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
Do you want me to take this next one here if you're ready?
Do it to it.
Do you guys have any favorite scenes, favorite parts through the the first 2 full books and then this first sub book of Memories of Ice?
So many.
Yes.
So many.
One of the ones that immediately pops to mind for me, well, there's like so many in the second book, especially that are so good. Probably any scene with Isgirl Pust in it, just because of who he is as a character. Crocus being a petulant little baby boy. Love all those. But specific scenes, I love the scene where they're on the boat and they Bowden tackles Felicin off the side of the ship and like saves her, pulling them out of that warren onto the beach. And I'm so bad with names, especially in the previous book. It's like, it sounds like Buke, but it's not Buke. Bolt. It's Bolt.
Yeah.
And Culp. It's Culp and Felicin and Heberick, and they're all on the beach. And there's like one moment where you think, oh, Felicin's really going to turn the corner on her attitude problem. And instead she's like, is everybody alive? And they're like, yeah, we are. And she's like, well, then stop laying around. Don't get your beauty sleep. We got to go. It's like, okay, no, there's nothing that's going to break this girl from being just rude. And then the scene at the end with Heberick having his ghost hands, near the end with Heberick having his ghost hands and like climbing. I don't even remember what he's climbing.
Yeah.
That was such a bizarre thing. Like, I could not wrap my head around that at all. Like, just trying to visualize it, it just, like, I thought it was really cool, but I'm like, I just cannot get in the headspace for this to make sense in my brain.
Yeah. And then almost any scene with Kalam, like, belly crawling across the ground, being like, I got to take out 50 of all the Claw who are here, and I'm going to show them who's boss. And what do I have? Nothing, but I'm going to find something, baby. That was a great section too. Sorry, I'm like just rattling off a million.
Good. There's so many good ones. I mean, it's full of incredible scenes. Erickson talks about how he doesn't write novels. He writes like a series of short stories all stuck together. And there's so many amazing scenes. Oh my God. I mean, obviously the end with Coltane is like going to live in my brain forever.
Rent free.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of great stuff from Gardens of the Moon, because I know there was tons of really fun, awesome scenes in Gardens of the Moon, but now it's been so long that I'm not, there's a line where, Animander Rake shows up at a thing, and he describes it. He says, Animander Rake was an atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like, it's that kind of thing, that kind of stuff that just like, there's so many incredible moments throughout these books that
Rake at the party, like gonna fight somebody.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, who's your champion? And I forget who their champion was. Though they got the duelist guy, like the noble, and they're like, who's your champion? And Rake's like, oh, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, just there for the giggles.
Yeah.
Most scenes with Rake.
So
I could probably pick like my top 15 characters, and I'm like, any scene with that person in it, pretty great.
Yeah, totally. Agreed.
Was there anything that struck either of you as like the most impactful one?
I think for me, I don't think it was the Sakala crossing in Deadhouse Gates, but whichever, they're crossing the river and there's all the butterflies. Just the thousands of butterflies, like that one.
The Vathar.
Who's the character that gets drowned and the hand comes up and the butterflies are on the hand?
The child mage.
Sormo.
Yeah, Sormo. Yeah, so good. So good.
Like that. And obviously, like the ending of that book, but like that particular scene, I mean, it still would have been a good scene without the, if you didn't include the butterflies, but that for whatever reason, like for me, that just put it over the top. It was just that extra detail that I just really appreciated and really liked, and just made it much more special for me. Yeah, incredible. And all of the ways that Coltane does the impossible over and over and over again, like the having all the sappers like be literally trampled, with their shields over their heads as the horses go over the top of them, and like all the different ways that he like, oh well, this is literally impossible. You're going to die. You're completely outnumbered, and yet he
consistently get the chain of dogs moving forward. It's all that stuff so good.
I feel like the one or the couple of scenes that really resonated with me are in Gardens of the Moon, the Paran inside of Dragnapur.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was really cool. And how it even ties into some of the things that they're talking about in Memories of Ice.
Yeah, big time.
So, and then the Fete or the Fete, just all the stuff that went down with, Reyes. And, just even down to the way that the way that Erickson had all these characters have masks on. And I just remember all these masks were in some way, shape, or form an embodiment of who they are as a person. Yeah. So that was just really cool to like dissect. The Salanda, just purely because of my visual brain, like I could see everything the way that it was written, and like there's a mental picture there. The transitioning from the Tisti Idur Warren to the Minas Warren to like the real world was super cool to me. Yeah. I guess this is our last question, but it is focused on the first subbook of Memories of Ice here. So for me, Reyes being the guardian of the Finnest house was kind of amazing, because while I didn't think he was dead at the end of Gardens of the Moon, I thought that like there had to be something with him. And it's weird because after the whole thing with Tremolor and Moby in Dead House Gates, right? Like it was pretty obvious that he had become the guardian, but it just for whatever reason eluded me until I read it in this first subbook. But I guess, was that something that was a surprise to you all as well, or do you remember?
I mean, the fact that Race is just like, all right, come this way.
You're wasting.
And he's all messed up, right? He's like physically.
Yep. Yeah. It's like shredded.
It's like Beetlejuice.
Like he got hit by a fucking grenade, from what I remember. His bones are sticking out.
But it's funny because I just think it's funny because he's this, this tyrant, this big bad at the end of the book, and that he's basically become a doorman, just like, hey, I'm gonna lead you down here. You're not gonna want to do this, but you know what? You have no choice. So leave or not leave. It doesn't make any difference to me. One of these days you're gonna go there. I love it.
Especially because like tonally, like not just how he's built up in the first book, but like how he you have those chapters in his head where he's so evil. He's like waking up. He's like, Burn's sleeping down there. You know what? I'm gonna give her a little stab. She's sleeping. I don't care. Like he's just like evil. And now he's like, in my recollection, like a little bit of attitude. He's like a little sassy doorman, and I love that. Just as like the reveal, it's like another thing where it's like, is anyone ever truly gone in this book? And the thing I realized when you like just say little things that happened in the first part of this book, it feels like it's been an eternity. I feel like I've lived entire lifetime since I read the scenes you're talking about. It's crazy how far ago it feels, but we're moving at this speed of light.
I will say, as far as like evil characters go, Calor, I've enjoyed him too, and I wonder if like, is he really evil or is it just kind of a front? Like, I don't know yet. I mean, he seems like a jerk, but I mean, I don't know yet. I don't know.
I mean, bouncing off of that, we had a couple of big wins because while we were doing the prologue, we actually had Fantasy for the Ages gentlemen join us for that episode. And we had picked out, or that we had put together, that the Imperial Warren was the place that Calor had, or all three of the Elder Gods had put his world of destruction, Jakaraku or whatever, into the Imperial Warren, which thus was how it was created. And even Sister of the Cold Knights, like I was just like, oh, that's got to be Night Chill. That has to be Night Chill. So it was really cool to be able to put those pieces together. So, I mean, so far, I don't think we're as confused as we were in the first two book, but it's definitely nice to have those reveals right away instead of waiting till the end of the book. And then, even with the whole Jade statue thing in Deadhouse Gates, like we still don't have an answer to that one. But I think about it all the time. I'm like, what the fuck is this statue?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he definitely puts reveals in throughout. He doesn't wait till the end of the books. There's huge reveals, all through the novels, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, I guess here's the awkward part where we're out of questions. So
I don't have any other questions, but I after talking to the both of you, I definitely feel reinvigorated to keep reading. Justin and I we're reading Memories of Ice, and then we're actually reading another book that we're covering for our show as well. And Justin and I have talked a little bit about burnout, and maybe if I look back and think about it, maybe I'm feeling it a little bit, but now I'm definitely feeling, like I said, motivated to keep going and just keep seeing what's happening. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'll be shocked if you get to the end of Memories of Ice and it doesn't raise in your estimation. I think you have not gotten to the coolest stuff that this book has to offer, and I think you're going to be completely blown away by some of the stuff that happens.
Yes,
I do expect that. I totally expect that. But I told Justin a couple times throughout this first sub book, I felt a little bored at times. But I get, it's set up and I'm trusting that process, but I'm like, okay, like I'm ready to get going. Like, let's get going here. Let's get the wagons moving here and let's get to Capistan. And
yeah. I feel like this first sub book, if I could offer like any like words of wisdom that maybe will help you like reframe your brain in such a way that you keep on and key into that excitement versus, some of the things that would maybe make you feel bored, is treat it like you treated the first book, which for me, I'm like, I have no expectations. I don't know anything about this world. Anything I don't understand, I'm going to assume I'm not supposed to understand. I'm going to keep going through it. Where now, there's world context. We have a lot of characters. A lot of them aren't even talked about in this book. There's so much to analyze that I would say try to refrain from trying to dig too deep and just let yourself float on for the ride. And then you'll get to that good stuff, and I think you'll be really. I think you'll be really pleased.
I appreciate the advice.
It's the deep stuff that keeps me going. I love thinking about this shit. So
yeah, that's what's fun about these books, man. They are an onion.
Yeah.
There's always another layer down there, and it's just impressive that he's managed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Ogres are like onions. Well, cool. Lana, Jeff, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you join us here at DJ's Epic Quest. It's so nice to actually talk to other creators that haven't read the series before.
Yeah.
Usually it's one of those things where we've talked to people who have read the series once or twice or even 3 times. And it's usually a conversation around like, well, I can't really reveal this, but I can talk about this. So I'm kind of left with, what does that mean?
Yeah. Almost as informed by what they can't say, by what they will talk about.
Exactly. You're just like, you're not telling me something, so that means I'm either right or I'm wrong.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk to us. It's been a lot of fun, and
yeah, absolutely.
Can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us. I agree. It's really nice to talk to some more folks, especially folks who are on the same part in the book that we are. It's been great.
Yeah.
Very nice to meet you.
Thanks so much. We really appreciate it.
Epic Quest, CNJ's Epic Quest, CNJ's Epic Quest, CNJ's Epic Quest, CNJ's Epic Quest.